Hi, everyone. Welcome back to One Tourism World 2026, our global tourism conference here on the One Business World platform. One Tourism World brings together decision makers across tourism, hospitality, travel, destinations, experience design, technology, data, and investment. It is a global platform that accelerates collaboration, surfaces practical insights, and turns relationships into partnerships that strengthen the tourism economy. The 2026 Global Tourism Conference convenes the community around the most important priorities shaping this sector right now, including the ever-increasing travelers' expectations, operational performances and challenges, digital transformation, investment and development, as well as destination resilience. So our goal is to move beyond commentary, focus on what leaders can implement to drive better outcomes for their organizations, the travelers, and the places that welcome them as we build this community here together. So it's our great pleasure to welcome back our friend, Plato Ghinos. He is the president of Shaner Hotels. He's been with us in the past. He's joining us here from State College, Pennsylvania, in the middle of two states over from where I am. I'm in New York here today. We're going to talk about international growth strategies for hotel brands, and he is the president, as I said, of Shaner Hotels. Plato, good afternoon. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too, Glenn.
Why don't we get started? Why don't you just give us a brief overview of Shaner, just for our audience, in case they're not familiar.
Yeah, the Shaner Hotel Group, we are a hotel company based in State College, PA, but we have properties in 18 states and 3 countries. We are obviously in the US, we are in the Bahamas, Italy, Greece, and we just entered via an alliance, the United Arab Emirates, and looking at that part of the world. We currently own and manage 74 properties, and we have 6 properties under active development right now as we grow our portfolio. We are, again, headquartered in State College, PA. We have about 170 people at our corporate office dealing with every discipline of the business, and we have around 4,000 employees worldwide.
Terrific, terrific. Thank you for the overview. Now, you mentioned an alliance with the UAE. What makes an alliance a little bit different than, say, your traditional kind of
Yeah,
set?
like compared to our other international ventures,
Mhm.
an alliance, it's a little bit bigger scope. It's not based on
Okay.
one deal. We have partnered with the First Hospitality Group. It's one of the larger developer in Dubai, and they have about 10,000 rooms under their portfolio. Most of them are independent. They're getting into the branding part of
Okay.
the business, and that's where our role has kicked in, where we are assisting them in, basically converting independent properties to branded companies and looking at expanding that footprint, throughout the region there.
Okay, terrific. But obviously, an expanding and very busy part of the world
Right.
nowadays, for sure. So, I mean, as you think about new markets, right? 18 states, the Bahamas. You're on Nassau or different.
We're in Eleuthera with a resort,
Okay,
Eleuthera,
yeah.
Bahamas. Yeah.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then,
I've been down to the Bahamas a couple of times the last few years. The water's just beautiful. It's
uh,
just what a great it's a really super place. And then Italy, and Greece, right?
right.
Right. Very, very good. Right. So when you think about going to a new market, right? Uh, what kind of, do you have like a game book or a framework that you use? Do you think about, am I going to do a direct acquisition? Am I going to do a brand new development? Am I on my own? Do I do a partnership? How do you decide what's the right fit? And I'm sure it's nuanced, right?
Yeah, that's the part of the business I really love, and timing is perfect because the UN just published last week the tourism barometer worldwide. And just to throw some numbers out, I'm going by memory, but last year, global tourism and travelers surpassed the 1.5 billion travelers worldwide, a 4% increase from 24, and they're predicting another 5% increase uh, for 26. So the volume and the numbers behind our industry are pretty amazing. They're not well advertised, but I think last year's expenditure on tourism, from people spending money traveling, surpassed it's close to $2 trillion. So it's a huge number. And reading and following, the whole trend in tourism and traveling, you see how the greatest growth is in markets you don't expect. I think Africa is leading with a 10% increase. Obviously, you have Southern Europe where we have exposure. It's a steady 4% increase. So our exercise here is trying to figure out where tourists will go, where business is going, and be a little bit futuristic. I mean, the US, we're still doing great. There's still a market to grow, but looking at this business from a global perspective, I mean, it's tremendous growth. And as middle class grows throughout the world, Asia, you have India, you even have Africa, everybody's bucket list is to travel, so it's, that's our future.
Well, it's interesting because I've seen some of those stats, especially as it pertains to the expansion worldwide of like the middle class and how that's empowering people, or those folks to maybe, in some cases, go for the first time, right? Come
Right,
back and say, let's what is on my bucket list? What would be a good opportunity, or maybe it's their first trip, right? as it
right.
as it goes along. So a lot to consider for sure. Now you've got a couple of multiple brands, right? You work with a number of brands. How about that decision? How do you come back and say, well, this I think this one looks like, fill in the blank, and this one
Right.
should be that one. That's got to be some decision making on your part too. And I guess there's a lot of gut instinct that goes along with that as well, right?
Yeah, and it's, being in the business, we're entering our 30th year, and we have seen the evolution of the brands where, we all started with Holiday Inns, and then it evolved to DoubleTrees and Hiltons. Then you had Marriott Corporation, which we have a great exposure with. Most of our brands are with Marriott International and with Hilton. You see the evolution of the branding and kind of the segmentation of each brand. The good and the bad thing is, every big company has about 30 plus brands right now. So from a consumer point of view, there's a lot of selection, but also from as an owner and manager, we're going through the same exercise, trying to decide what location will fit what brand and then what sub brand. So it's a very important part of our due diligence and decision making, and it's all based obviously on markets, locations, what's available, and basically who your customer will be, that would fit that brand.
Well, when they with right. Growing up, Marriott to me was always just, it was like the flagship, right? But now you look at, and but that was all you saw. But now with all of okay, they got the Starwood acquisition, but you look at, even as you said, even when it was Starwood, there's sub brands from that. So there's many to choose from, right? Whether it could be Courtyard or Fairfield Inn or traditional Marriott or Suites, right? There's a lot that goes in. I would assume that that's also a function of maybe where you're looking to plant that flag, right? Is it a
Yeah, and
college
it's
town?
getting
Is it a
it's getting
sports
tougher
town? Is
and
it a
tougher,
city,
and
right? All,
yeah,
all,
and
all of
it's
that, all of that's gonna play a part for sure, right? As it
correct.
as it
And
as
it's
yeah.
again, the segmentation is getting so detailed right now, and you need to study exactly consumer trends and how is the consumer picking up a brand. And I would say over the last 7, 10 years, you have the lifestyle brands, which are basically not the cookie cutter brand anymore. It's not your Hampton Inn room or your Courtyard room, or it's a lifestyle property. Each property is different. For example, we have the autograph collection with Marriott and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
tribute, which we are involved in developing. Same with Curio with Hilton. So everybody, Hyatt has gotten into it. Intercontinental Hotels has gotten into it. So again, it's a consumer trend. Everybody's looking for the brand promise, but They want something different and different experiences and different services too.
Well, it's, we said in the opening with the traveler's expectations, right? That always changes. But with every traveler, right? Every day you have to perform, right? Every day your property has to perform, right? If because not everybody's gonna be there all the time. They could be one night, right? And you wow them and you do a great job, but then somebody else checks in, right? 20 minutes
Right.
later. And then and they're there for but maybe a particular type of experience, but you still have to kind of deliver on that expectation, right? How about do you do like surveying and how do you keep track of all of these expectations? Like you mentioned, lifestyle. Like a lot of people want that from their travel experience.
That's maybe the most important part of our business. You can have a beautiful physical property. It all boils down to service and how do you welcome your guests? How do you take care of their needs? And, again, it's the hospitality 101 lesson is take care of your customer. And that's our daily duty. And, with technology moving really fast, customer uh, reaction surveys, social media, it has become a really fast paced uh, system or evolution on how quickly you need to react. But it all boils down to training and selecting the right staff for the right property to service your customer. And again, one of the basic principles that Bill Marriott Sr. always believed in, and we believe in: take care of your associate, and they will take care of the customer. Really empower your employees to make decisions and satisfy the customer coming in. Again, it's training, it's hiring right, and keep the training fresh because again, consumer trends change, the customer changes expectations. We need to change too, and you see some of those effects on the newer hotels where the big old front desks are going away. They're pods now. You see, all those little details. It's just bringing the staff with the customer closer and not losing that human touch. Don't let technology take over that
Yeah.
human.
I've always liked on the places I've stayed, and I used to have a couple where it was like a regular kind of trip. And you
Mhm.
get to know the people that work there. You develop a relationship with them, right? You can call
Right.
them the night before you leave, right? And I used to do this in Pennsylvania. I would call, I would come up very early in the morning. Um, and it's, as you know, getting out of the house is not easy. So it's easy just to get up and drive, right? So I would call like the night before and I would always ask, how's the occupancy looking? Oh, we got plenty of room. I said, okay, you guys know I leave like Long Island like 4 a.m. Don't worry. We'll be prepared to check you in at 7 a.m. It's like perfect, perfect, right? But that comes from the relationship with the people, right? The staff, as you said, cherishing them. They are, you could have the greatest room and the best property, but if somebody has a poor experience at the check-in or maybe in the restaurant or the lounge, right? That could spoil somebody's not only day, but maybe the whole trip, right?
Yeah.
As you
No,
go
you're
to,
absolutely right. It again, the hotel business, hospitality business, it's all about the human service. And a lot of times, what I tell my staff is we are more in the entertainment business. We're there to make the customer happy no matter what. They might be had a hard day at work or, a delayed or canceled flight. They come in to our hotels exhausted. How do we use entertainment? Then it's a simple smile. It's nothing too sophisticated. There's no, they're not tricks there. It's just, just welcome your customer. And how do we maintain that attitude?
to me, the ultimate welcome, and I'm old-fashioned maybe, it's the lobby, right? It's
Right.
when you first come in. How does it feel? And I've got some favorite hotels around the world that it's all about, and there's that famous clock, right? Or there's the fountain, or whatever the case may be. It just you walk in, and as a traveler, it gives you that feeling of, oh, I'm home, right? Ah, I finally made it. Oh,
Yeah,
there's a series of comfort. Of course, then again, you still the elevators still have to work, right? And the room's got to be ready to go and everything else. But to me, the first spot a hotel first opens the door is I know you have systems and reservations and all that. Obviously, there's a lot of touch points before that. But that initial, you get out of the car, you get out of the cab, and you walk in, and there it is. And if it's the first time, right? That's always exciting too, because I've walked into some lobbies over my lifetime, and it's like, wow, look at this, right? Or it's
right.
the one that you've gone plenty of times, and you just feel like, oh, all right, I know what I'm doing. There he is again. He's here he's the night guy. He's been the night guy for years, right? And it just gives you that nice welcoming feeling, which is always great. But with all of what you've got, right, all the different properties and things, and you talk about surveying and keeping things fresh and things, how often, from a data standpoint, from like a metric standpoint, how often do you see new performance measurements coming up where all of a sudden it's like, we really weren't tracking that, but now we should? Or there's a new industry standard that comes in that we have to make our staff aware of and make sure our property is up to snuff with that. Does that happen a lot?
Yeah, it used to be monthly, it used to be weekly, it used to be daily. Now it's maybe hourly. Again, with
Wow. Okay.
technology moving so fast, we can see data right away, kind of live data, from both, from a hotel guest room to a food and beverage outlet. We know what we sell, what we sold 20 minutes ago, what orders are coming in. So the tracking and the technological advance has made that pace much faster, and also the need for us to react faster. Is it a performance, is it a customer review, and how quickly can we respond to any type of a situation, good or bad. It's a 24/7 anymore. It's not, you don't need to collect all the data at the end of the month to see if people were happy or not happy. It's basically becoming hourly. And as you can see, usually the hotel industry follows the airline industry. The airline is changing their surveying. As soon as you land, you get a text with a
Yes.
survey.
Okay.
So I think the same with a better car dealerships, some retail. So everything is moving to more of a spontaneous reaction. So again, as an industry, we are always behind on some of that technology, but we are catching up. So I see that as a crucial part of our business. And actually, it's better because I'd rather react and solve an issue right away instead of getting a letter in the mail 15 days later telling us of something that has happened, in the past. It's too late to react. So it's an evolution. I think it's a positive evolution. And again, it's just, the challenge with everything is how do you keep that data neutral, fair, because you're going to get both extremes on the positive and the negative. Really, how do you measure what's really going on?
Makes sense. Makes sense. Makes sense. How about for Shaner? How important is culture?
Like, that's what has, we're getting close to 40 years in the business. Uh,
Congratulations. Congratulations.
so it's all about culture, and it's all about, again, going back. Take care of your associate, kind of take care of your customer. Building a team. Loyalty is important. Being there for the employees when they need us. Is it during COVID or during, the major crises, or, natural disasters, being there, being part of the community, being part of their lives to a certain extent. Obviously, the benefit package is important because we are in competition with all the other service industries out there, and everybody has the same labor issues and challenges. So how do you compete, with retail and or the restaurant, the convenience stores? Everybody's getting more sophisticated, so it's part of the culture, and it's also part of listening to what they have to say, because they are on the field, they're dealing with it. Just getting their input is important, and then giving him, at the end of the day, giving him the opportunity to grow as a person, career wise, family wise, just offer them a better future. And this industry has multiple examples of people starting from a front desk or a bell position and moving up and being presidents of a company. So it's the upward mobility in our industry. We have done a horrible job advertising it or communicating it to the younger generation, but if you stick with it, the opportunity is great. And as I mentioned before, it's such a global industry and growing with huge numbers. We need more people in our industry, more younger people and more educated people in our educated in our business and well trained in our industry worldwide. It's not just the U.S.
Well, a lot of colleges now have, right, tourism and
Right.
hospitality
Sure.
areas of study, right? So that helps. I remember growing up, there was like one college I always remembered that had it, and I think it was in Rhode Island, and that was the famous one. And then you never really heard about it. But now I'm running into all sorts of places that are having, oh no, we have a hospitality program and we have a tourism, both here in the United States and abroad. But it's nice to see that there's opportunities for growth for the staff, right? That this because sometimes some industries like, oh, that's just like my first job, or oh, it's my part-time job, right? I cover the desk at night for extra money. It's nice to know that there's a career path, you know?
Absolutely. And again, there are multiple examples of high ranking executives that have been, are, and will be that started as a hourly employee and move their way up. And again, it's a growing industry, and that's the message we're trying to communicate to the general public, but especially to high school graduates. That look at it as a potential career path if you like to be in the people's business, I call it, entertainment business. The hospitality industry will offer you a great opportunity and also to specialize too. The other thing people forget, our business has gotten so complex. You have different departments. It's not just front desk and housekeeping and maintenance. Is it auditing? Is it accounting? Is it feasibility, social media, revenue management? There's so many disciplines that you need experts right now. So the career path really has quadrupled in opportunities of specialization.
I always come to know that one of my favorite spots is in San Francisco, and it's one of those famous hotels, famous lobbies, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and they've got the staircase that goes up to the second, third floor. Um, Actually, that hotel you can keep going, but the bigger parts of and every so often I'll wander up there, and it's an eye opener for me because that's where all those departments are that you just mentioned. And you always, as a guest, you don't think about that. But then you realize there's the sales office, there's the
Right.
catering office, there's the finance office, there's the business technology office, there's the general manager, there's security. I mean, the whole that runs the whole gamut. And you realize that, well, this is like any other business, right? It needs
Mhm.
all of these types of departments. It's not just the restaurant, it's not just housekeeping, it's not just the front desk. It's like any other business from by way of a skill set and the talent that you need to run that business. And it comes from it. So every so walk up those lobby steps and go see what's on the second, the second,
Right.
the second or third floor. Tell me a little bit about the three properties that you've got under development. What stage are they at?
Yeah, look, we have three properties under construction right now.
So straight new construction?
New construction. All
Okay.
of them are new construction. We have some exciting projects we are working on in the Ohio area. We're building a property at the Ohio State University area. We're building another one, with the ownership of the
Your
Cleveland.
your hometown team may take exception to that.
Oh yeah, it's Big Ten country. Actually,
That's
we're
right.
looking at another deal in Ann Arbor, Michigan. So get the Big Three at least, or what used to be the Big
Wow.
Three.
Wow. You're gonna be popular.
And again, in our business, we're looking for opportunities where there is a need. to build, and we really liked participating with partners that generate the demand. For example, we are building their for the Cleveland Browns at the new training facility, a hotel in Cleveland. We are working on a deal in Kansas City, working with NASCAR and Hollywood Casino, building a hotel on their facility. So it's kind of mixing again the whole entertainment, sports venue. Um, we have a lot of exposure there, and we see that as a good future for us to keep on growing our portfolio in those type of markets.
Those are always exciting markets. Those are always bucket list trips, right?
Right, right,
Like my brother and sister-in-law, she's an Ohio State graduate, so
okay,
they do the pilgrimage one game a year. They pick a weekend and they go, and or even where you are, right? In Happy Valley there. I mean, that's
right,
110,000 seat stadium, right? I mean, I
right.
remember we did the college tour once. We drove up and it's like, and my first reaction was, where does every when
Yeah.
when it's a home game, where does everybody stay?
And what's amazing too, I mean, take State College as an example. Yeah, you have 110 seats, but you have 300,000 people outside, and
Yeah.
that's a long weekend event. It's not
Yes.
anymore, a game. And the nice thing to see is, with Penn State, with the new leadership, they're progressing. They just had a couple of weeks ago, they used the stadium for an ice hockey game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Penn
Yeah.
State versus Michigan. It filled up with 75,000 people, and it was like 0 degrees there. But again, it's the entertainment, the venues. I think that's where we're betting. In the future, people are seeking that. Entertainment venue? Is it music? Is it sports? That seems to be part of everybody's DNA anymore.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned NASCAR, right? Motorsport, that's
Right,
taken over the last probably decade and a half. That's become so popular, right? And again, all reasons to move around, bucket lists and things. So you're
right,
kind of hinting, Plato, you're kind of hinting a little bit. You talk about construction, you talk about community and stuff. Sounds like partnership is important, right? And collaboration.
right.
What do you think?
Absolutely, you have to. And same. When we entered the Italian market 17 years ago, we have a great local family. It's a partner. They know. Uh, they have they know the playbook on their area. Is it Ohio? Is it Tuscany? Is it Dubai? There's a local partner who is established, knows what they're doing from the entitlement point of view, regulations, and everything. Again, you cannot be an expert on everything, so you rather partner and share expertise, and kind of that's our formula where we have enough hotel knowledge, on the branding, operating, and managing side. We're combining those two forces, makes it a much better, safer investment for everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So as you look across the Shaner portfolio, different brands, different properties, different operators, right? Different
Right.
all in and around. Um, Any kind of tips on governance, or how do you get alignment right? How often do you tweak the alignment um, from either past experience or wow, they need maybe this new property needs more attention. Let's let's move it this way for them a little bit. Maybe we need to visit more often. How, how do you keep that alignment uh,
Yeah, it's
all together, I guess, together, but flexible at the same time, recognizing that, change may be needed.
Yeah, look, it's two answers to that question. One is, depending on the market and location, you might need different attention, level of intensity. Is it the airport location versus an urban location or highway location or a beach location? Is it the weather elements could be an issue. But it's a constant. You need to be constantly in touch with the property and the market. And going back to my previous comment, you need to be flexible, ready to adjust in any type of a circumstance. Is it customer based, employee based, or city based? Is there a big event coming in? Right now we're getting ready. We have three markets where the World Cup will
Yeah.
be a big player coming in June. Actually, in some markets, we're starting to fill up right now, with some of the World Cup event, which, I don't know the numbers, but it's a lot bigger and has bigger economic effects than the Olympics and or the Super Bowl. It's a much bigger deal. So that's a great opportunity. But yeah, you need to adjust both from a personnel. Is it security if you have teams staying with you? The timing, when they come in and come out. So it's all, that's what keeps us young. Your playbook of last week doesn't exist next week.
I've stayed on a couple of let's call it road trips when one of my many midlife crises, and I've had probably three stages of midlife crisis. But I used to do some of the road trips with the teams. It's really special to stay at a property when the team is there.
Right.
And but as a guest, not as like the autograph hound out in front on the driveway, right, or in the lobby, but
Mhm.
to be there. Uh, and I remember once I went, I'm forgetting where it was. Maybe it was. I looked down, I check in, and there's a stack of cards. And I look down and I see the first name, and it's like, I know who that is.
Mhm.
So I asked are the Cincinnati Reds staying here? I'm not allowed to say.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, that on the first, because the cards are already preset for the names and stuff. Anyways, so I've stayed sometimes with the team, and that's a special experience too, because they're just like every other year. You see them in the lobby, you see them in the restaurant or the bar, or even better, the elevator, right? When you get a chance to, hey, great game last night, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Things like that. That's always special too. What was the first property for Shayner? Which property was it?
Oh boy, it goes back in the early 80s. I think it was a Sheraton in Lockport, New York, close to Niagara Falls,
Yeah, yeah.
so that was kind of the first big branded hotel where
Okay.
everything started, and kind of the rest is history. But again, the lessons we learned from there, kind of getting into the business, big, larger hotels, and again with a brand, never forget where you started. So
100%, 100%. Got to know where you come from to know where you're going, right?
yeah, yeah.
Now you said 17 years in Italy. How about Greece? How long have you been in Greece?
I guess we have been here probably 7 years, and we have a new property we are developing in the island of Rhodes. So it's part of that growing destination of the world. It's and again, you look at the airlift, you look at all the positive economic indicators. Southern Europe has been performing really strong, and Greece is part of it. Same with Italy. But then, you need to look a little bit ahead too. And again, going back to the statistics, look, a very interesting piece of the world that's usually forgotten is the continent of Africa. There are a lot of destinations there, underserved by hotels or quality properties. But again, consumers looking for all those new experiences. There's a small island off the coast, I think in East Africa, Seychelles. Everybody's looking for that fancy eco tourism part, but hard to get to. But it's amazing how strong the demand is for those destinations. That didn't used to be on anybody's radar 10 years ago.
Well, that goes back to again travelers' expectations, the destination resilience, right? Lifestyle, right?
Right.
Like a trip to Africa. That's for most people, that's probably if ever, but maybe once in a lifetime, right?
Sure.
Actually, my one of my business associates is there now, and yeah, it's like she's in the hunting lodge because
Wow. Right.
that's where that's where at least they got Wi-Fi so she can
Right.
communicate, right?
Those
As a
hunting lodges are $2,000-3,000 a night. So it's
yeah,
obviously
that was my
a,
guess. Yeah,
it's a it seems to be a very op- profitable venture. Now, again, you need to take into consideration costs and how do
sure.
you bring material in the middle of nowhere. So it's not a cheap place to operate. But yeah, it's Again, Africa, the Middle East is growing. Everybody's getting into the tourism thing. And the classic example when I talk to students is, look what Saudi Arabia is doing. They have decided to evolve to a major tourist destination, and they have the land, they have the ocean, they have beautiful scenery, and they're really investing in building
Oh,
areas, resorts. So it's
some of the new
pretty,
construction there has been just
yeah,
incredibly impressive.
it's pretty amazing. So again, that's all opportunity for kind of our young people in our industry. That it's such a worldwide industry with great opportunities. But yeah, look at Saudi Arabia. It's a perfect example.
Yeah, no, lots of opportunities, lots of collaboration. Even I said you just mentioned your new construction, right? You're coming into the community. You're going to be a
Right.
new member of the community, right? You're partnering with, the the banking side here for on
Right.
the construction side of it. So everybody kind of comes together, everybody pulls together. It's very collaborative.
Right.
It's an exciting industry. I always love when we do our conference here every year. We meet wonderful people just like yourself. We learn a lot. We hear all of what's going on the new side, and developments and all of that. And it's very exciting. It's got to be fast paced. You must love it.
It's like it keeps you young, Glenn. It's
Mhm.
again, everything changes, and what I'm telling everybody, there's somebody doing what we are doing better. So, let's
So
go
keep
find
keep
out how they
working
do it.
hard. Yeah, keep working hard, right?
Yeah.
All right, Plato, thanks for joining us again this year. You're an ace. Always a pleasure to talk to you. Fantastic story here for Shaner Hotels. Wish you continued success. If we can be of any help in the future, please call on us, okay?
Thank you for having me.
All right. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye bye.